Have you ever felt stuck when trying to speak English? You know the words exist somewhere in your mind, but they refuse to come out when you need them. Your brain freezes, your tongue hesitates, and the moment passes. What if you could unlock your natural ability to speak, express yourself freely, and never again struggle for words? Welcome to this transformative lesson. I'm Julia, and today I want to reveal the breakthrough secret to achieving genuine language fluency. It's not about collecting massive lists of vocabulary. It's about developing the power to paint vivid images with words. By the time we finish today, you will possess the capability to create compelling narratives, construct detailed descriptions, and articulate your thoughts with precision on absolutely any subject at every level. This particular skill is what distinguishes competent intermediate speakers from those who achieve true advanced fluency. So, if you're determined to stop mentally translating and start flowing naturally and fluently, you've come to the right place. Subscribe immediately and enable notifications because each of our daily lessons is specifically crafted to accelerate your fluency dramatically. Now, take out your notebook and your pen and let's begin this journey. When learners think about fluency, many imagine rapid speech without pause or hesitation. But authentic fluency involves much more than speed. It's fundamentally about clarity, poise, and the ability to explain what you perceive, experience, and believe, using straightforward, natural English. If you develop the skill to explain anything in your surroundings, you'll never experience the frustration of running out of things to say. This is precisely why detailed explanation is the foundational skill we're emphasizing today. Let's start with something elementary. Picture yourself positioned in your residence. Survey your immediate surroundings carefully. Observe what's present around you. Perhaps you notice a flowering plant, an illuminating device, a reading material, or possibly some footwear. Now, attempt to articulate one of those items in English clearly. If you're observing an aged sofa, you might express it this way. The sofa displays a luxurious fabric in rich burgundy tones. Its framework rests on wooden supports with intricate carvings. The cushioning appears exceptionally comfortable and welcoming. The overall tone creates a sophisticated deep wine colour. This furniture sits positioned in the room's corner near my bookcase. Do you comprehend our methodology here? We employ uncomplicated phrases to characterize a singular item. Yet, when combined, these phrases construct a comprehensive mental representation. Now let's work together. I will communicate a statement, and you can echo my words. That sculpture is crafted from stone. Repeat that clearly. That sculpture is crafted from stone. Now, let's incorporate additional information. That sculpture is a beautiful grey stone piece. Repeat my words. That sculpture is a beautiful grey stone piece. Next, add more dimensions to it. That sculpture is a beautiful grey stone piece, and it displays intricate patterns carved throughout its surface. Try expressing that. That sculpture is a beautiful grey stone piece, and it displays intricate patterns carved throughout its surface. Can you sense how descriptions expand with every supplementary element? This constitutes the fundamental basis of fluency, constructing layer after layer of detail until your audience visualizes exactly what you're communicating. Regardless of whether you're a novice or an accomplished learner, the technique remains unchanged. Newcomers typically employ simpler terminology, such as large, little, vivid, or pleasant. More sophisticated learners utilize more specialized vocabulary, like massive, microscopic, scarlet, or splendid. Both approach involves explanation, simply with varying complexity levels. Let's examine another typical scenario. Picture yourself discussing your midday meal. You might say, "I consumed bread and eggs." That statement is valid, but notably restricted. Let's make it richer. I had warm, golden, crispy sourdough toast and a light, fluffy 2-egg scramble this noon. Better, wouldn't you agree? Now enhance it further. I had warm, golden, crispy sourdough toast with melting butter and a light, fluffy 2-egg scramble loaded with mushrooms and herbs this noon, right at my bright kitchen table. Now, your listener comprehends, not simply what you consumed, but also the atmosphere and sensations. That's genuine fluency development through elaborate description. Here's an activity for you. Reflect on something you consumed yesterday. Visualize it vividly. Open your eyes and attempt to articulate it aloud in English. Express the food category, the shades, the consistency, the aroma, the moment, and the location. Articulate at a measured pace. Your grammar doesn't require perfection. Simply practice describing with increasingly rich sensory components. This is a fundamental yet potent technique to train your consciousness to think in English consistently. When you practice articulating details, keep in mind that fluency isn't fundamentally about velocity initially. It centers on developing security. If you articulate gradually and explain thoroughly, subsequently, your speed will expand organically. Numerous learners attempt to speak rapidly and stumble or lose their assurance. However, if you concentrate on constructing confidence through explanation, you'll detect that expressions emerge to you progressively without labor. Let's consider articulating individuals. Suppose you encounter someone unfamiliar and another person questions you. Who is that individual? How would you reply in English? A basic beginner's response might be, "That is my acquaintance." However, let's attempt to include additional information. "That's my acquaintance Marcus. He's reasonably elevated and possesses slightly wavy dark brown locks." Better, isn't it? Now, let's progress further. "That's my acquaintance Marcus. He's elevated with wavy dark brown locks and he's displaying a refined navy shirt over a pale button-up currently. Every supplementary characteristic generates a sharper representation." And if you desire to communicate greater fluency, you can integrate temperament. "That's my acquaintance Marcus. He's elevated with wavy brown locks. He's displaying a refined navy shirt and he radiates a genuinely kind aura and produces the best comedy." Currently, you're not merely explaining features, but also essence. Let's exercise together. Repeat gradually after me. "That gentleman is quite serious." Now insert that. "That gentleman is quite serious and possesses observant grey eyes." Now insert once more. "That gentleman is quite serious, possesses observant grey eyes, and is currently reading a newspaper." And eventually, "That gentleman is quite serious, possesses observant grey eyes." is currently reading a newspaper, and he seems incredibly intellectual and fascinating. Can you detect the capability of articulation strengthening incrementally? This identical technique functions for articulating geographic locations similarly. Picture that you're invited to characterize your neighborhood. A concise beginner's response might be, "My neighborhood is energetic. However, let's broaden. My neighborhood is energetic and dynamic." Insert additional. My neighborhood is energetic, dynamic, and packed with colonial architecture, alongside contemporary metal constructions. Now, insert more specifics. My neighborhood is energetic and dynamic, packed with colonial architecture and contemporary metal constructions. And the compact stone pathways consistently overflow with creative individuals and performers. Do you comprehend how this generates a representation in your listener's consciousness? Here's one more activity for you. Shut your eyes and visualize your sleeping quarters. Now, articulate it steadily in English. Start with "My quarters is comfortable." Subsequently insert, "My quarters is comfortable and decorated with numerous botanical specimens." Insert more. "My quarters is comfortable, decorated with botanical specimens, and the surfaces are finished in a soothing celadon shade." Insert once more. "My quarters is comfortable, decorated with botanical specimens. The surfaces are finished in a soothing celadon shade, and it features a substantial panoramic portal, permitting daylight." Insert character. "My quarters is comfortable and decorated with botanical specimens. The surfaces are soothing celadon. It features a substantial panoramic portal, permitting daylight, and it embodies my private getaway where I find tranquility." Each moment you incorporate additional information, you're exercising your consciousness to think in English, utilizing accumulating layers. An additional essential element in articulation involves engaging your sensory perception. Consider appearance, auditory experience, olfactory sensation, flavor, and tactile sensation. When you articulate with senses, your English becomes energetic. As an example, characterizing a strawberry. The strawberry appears vibrant crimson. This is elementary. But integrate senses. The strawberry appears vibrant crimson and possesses a slight bumpy consistency. Insert flavor. The strawberry appears vibrant crimson and possesses a slight bumpy consistency, and it's succulent and slightly tart when I consume it. Insert aroma. The strawberry appears vibrant crimson and possesses a slight bumpy consistency. It's succulent and slightly tart, and it emanates a lovely sweet aroma that pervades my kitchen. Insert touch. The strawberry appears vibrant crimson and delicious. It emanates a lovely sweet aroma, and the exterior feels marginally tough in my possession. Now your articulation is abundant and commanding. Exercise alongside me. Repeat. This beverage is dark. Now insert. This beverage is dark and lustrous. Insert additional. This beverage is dark, lustrous, and smells luxurious and pleasant, practically like hazelnuts. Insert flavor. This beverage is dark and lustrous, smells luxurious like hazelnuts, and it tastes slightly acrid initially, subsequently dissolving into a delightful smoothness. Insert once more. This beverage is dark and lustrous, smells delightful, tastes slightly acrid, subsequently smooth, and it generates a wonderful, indulgent sensation when I consume it. This variety of articulation not simply enhances fluency, but simultaneously facilitates you connecting feelings with English vocabulary. Recall, the objective is not to absorb predetermined expressions, but to exercise broadening your concepts organically. Commence elementary and insert characteristics progressively. This is precisely how you can characterize anything. An item, a being, a setting, or perhaps a condition. Here's an activity you can execute. Every daybreak, choose individual object nearby, perhaps your beloved book, your carrying bag, or your morning refreshment. Subsequently, invest several minutes articulating it, vocalizing in English. Every occasion, push to incorporate additional sensory components. At first, it might feel unhurried, but gradually, you'll observe that vocabulary commences flowing. This everyday short exercise can absolutely revolutionize your fluency in several months. When you characterize matters in English, you're not simply acquiring vocabulary. You're fundamentally exercising your consciousness to think immediately in English. This constitutes among the greatest shifts a learner can accomplish. Countless learners mentally convert from their indigenous language to English, and it impedes their speed. Yet when you concentrate on characterizing what exists around you right this moment, you haven't got time to convert. You simply correlate your consciousness to English vocabulary. This is the authentic breakthrough to fluency. Picture yourself outside and you desire to characterize meteorological phenomena. A beginner might express, "It's breezy." This is satisfactory, yet it is restricted. Let's broaden collectively. It's breezy and overcast currently. Insert additional. It's breezy, overcast, and the environment resembles a blanket of delicate white formations. Insert further. It's breezy and overcast. The environment resembles a blanket of white formations, and I can sense a refreshing zephyr moving the vegetation in the plants. Suddenly, you're not merely offering a restricted reply. You're generating a representation of the instant. Exercise alongside me currently. Repeat this gradually. It is raining. Insert additional. It is raining, and the terrain appears white and wet. Insert once more. It is raining. The terrain appears white and wet, and everything feels silent and unmoving. Insert substantially more. It is raining. The terrain appears white and wet. Everything feels silent and unmoving. And the singular sensation is the delicate shuffle of my footsteps. This is precisely how you might convert one limited notion into fluent English. One additional case characterizing mental conditions. Let's suppose someone requests, "How do you feel currently?" Most learners respond with, "I am satisfactory," or "I feel wonderful." This is valid but elementary. Let's understand characterizing our conditions with increased complexity. Try articulating, "I'm experiencing optimism." I experience invigoration and hopefulness regarding the coming period. Or, "I'm experiencing somewhat introspective currently." Simply observing everything and appreciating the calmness. Notice how this communicates your listener a thorough representation of your condition, not merely one vocabulary. Currently, let's exercise collectively. Repeat after me. I feel centered. Now insert, I feel centered and grounded. Insert additional. I feel centered, grounded, and prepared to navigate whatever circumstances emerge. Insert once more. I feel centered, grounded, prepared to navigate whatever circumstances emerge, and appreciative of this peaceful occasion preceding activities. Do you sense how it transforms into a fluent and organic response? Here's an activity for you. Every evening, invest a moment articulating your feelings throughout the period. Vocalize it. As an example, currently I experienced genuine accomplishment, and I felt satisfied because I conquered a challenging endeavor. Or I experienced some agitation this afternoon, but afterward I felt serene when I chose to walk. This straightforward activity strengthens feeling vocabulary and fluency. Currently, let's transition to characterizing movements. Movements are impactful because they facilitate constructing accounts. If somebody inquires, "What activities did you accomplish previously?" a straightforward reply might be, "I tended my vegetation." This is satisfactory but limited. Let's broaden. I tended my vegetation and cultivated several bright pink azalea seedlings. Insert additional. I tended my vegetation, cultivated several bright pink azalea seedlings, and I invested an hour subsequently, merely relaxing on my deck feeling satisfied. This transforms a restricted reply into a genuine account. Exercise alongside me. Repeat gradually. I participated in running. Currently insert. I participated in running beside the canal. Insert once more. I participated in running beside the canal and witnessed a gathering of geese gliding. Insert additional. I participated in running beside the canal, witnessed a gathering of geese gliding, and experienced the refreshing sensation on my complexion as I sprinted. This is precisely how to exercise characterizing your movements exhaustively. Here's one more brief activity. Prior to slumber, contemplate your complete period. Characterize it sequentially in English. As an instance, I woke at sunrise, prepared a powerful beverage, and handled my communications. I took the bus towards the urban centre and experienced anticipation regarding my appointment. During midday, I consumed a delectable noodle combination with my colleague Sophie, and we experienced substantial laughter. Execute this routinely, and your capability to characterize movements will flourish organically. Keep in mind, characterization isn't concerning flawless grammar initially. It's concerning expression. Even if your phrases are elementary, the action of characterizing progressively will encourage you to employ additional vocabulary and broaden your English organically. Throughout duration, your grammar improves similarly because you'll perceive tendencies. Currently, let's attempt characterizing events, which is sophisticated. As an illustration, imagine you engaged in mountaineering. You might express, "I engaged in mountaineering yesterday, but let's make it richer. The mountaineering encounter was strenuous yet fulfilling." Insert additional. The mountaineering encounter was strenuous yet fulfilling. and the vista from the highest point was genuinely magnificent. Insert once more. The mountaineering encounter was strenuous, the vista was magnificent, and I relaxed on a boulder consuming an apple and experienced absolute alignment with everything. This is precisely how you animate your characterizations. Let's exercise collectively. Repeat gradually after me. I manufactured a unique formula. Currently insert, I manufactured a unique formula for a peppery Southeast Asian curry. Insert additional. I manufactured a unique formula for a peppery Southeast Asian curry. And my cooking area saturated with the scent of aromatic plants and tropical fruit. Insert once more. I manufactured a unique formula for a peppery Southeast Asian curry. My cooking area saturated with pleasant scents, and I felt so pleased when my loved ones adored it. Progressively, your phrase transforms into a fluent characterization of a circumstance. Here's a practice possibility. Once every rotation, choose individual circumstance in your life and articulate it thoroughly in English. Vocalize for a few moments. It might be a meal, a stroll, a presentation, or a communication. Neglect concerning mistakes. Simply concentrate on incorporating progressively elaborate information. This constitutes among the quickest techniques to accomplish fluency. Ultimately, recall that characterization additionally relates to association. When you characterize anything thoroughly, the listener experiences proximity to you because they envision what you communicate. This explains why exercising characterization transcends merely fluency, plus simultaneously produces more robust interaction with community. An especially advantageous practice for fluency involves practicing characterizations of your regular behaviors. Your regular behaviors give you unlimited substance for exercise because you accomplish several smaller movements every period and each possibility to be articulated in English. The greater you characterize your ordinary existence, the increasingly organic English becomes. Let's initiate from the instant you emerge from resting. A straightforward phrase is "I woke up at 6. Yet let's broaden collectively. I emerged from resting at 6 and experienced revival following an excellent night's rest. Insert additional. I emerged feeling revitalized and flexed my appendages in my sleeping quarters prior to getting down. Insert once more. I emerged experiencing revitalization, flexed my appendages in my quarters, and viewed beyond the portal to perceive the delicate, brilliant morning sun. Gradually, the characterization develops more comprehensive and starts resembling accounts. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. I completed my mouth cleansing. Inclusion. I completed my mouth cleansing using minty flavored paste. Insert once more. I completed my mouth cleansing using minty paste, and the refreshing, zesty impression awakened my consciousness. Insert additional. I completed my mouth cleansing using minty paste. The refreshing impression awakened my awareness, and I grinned at my image in the reflective surface. By characterizing your behaviors this manner, you're not merely practicing phrases, but simultaneously linking communication to your genuine existence. Currently, let's attempt characterizing morning refreshment. You might express, I consumed breakfast. This is restricted. Let's broaden. I consumed a dish of oats and consumed beverage made from citrus. Insert additional. I consumed a heated dish of oats decorated with berries and consumed a serving of newly pressed beverage made from citrus. Insert once more. I consumed a heated dish of oats decorated with berries, consumed newly pressed beverage made from citrus, and appreciated the tranquil morning at my table. When you exercise similarly every period, you exercise your consciousness to think in English gradually. Here's a small activity for you. Following daybreak consumption tomorrow, invest several moments articulating your behaviors in English. Vocalize it. It doesn't matter if you're unaccompanied. Express, I emerged at 6. I completed my mouth cleansing using minty paste. I consumed heated oats with blueberries and consumed newly pressed beverage made from citrus. Insert as plentiful specifics as feasible. This constitutes a powerful daily exercise that might gradually transform your fluency. Currently, let's advance to the afternoon. Possibly you work or participate in education. A straightforward reply might be, I went to the workplace. Yet let's broaden. I proceeded to the workplace via bus. Insert additional. I proceeded to the workplace via bus, and the morning transportation was surprisingly peaceful. Insert once more. I proceeded to the workplace via bus, and the commute was peaceful, and I experienced an interesting podcast via headphones. Insert additional. I proceeded to the workplace via bus. The commute was peaceful. I experienced an interesting podcast, and I experienced impressed as I observed beyond the portal at the urban centre awakening. This is precisely how to exercise, characterizing your movements exhaustively. Replicate alongside me presently. I completed research of English. Insert additional. I completed research of English and experienced a recording regarding cosmic investigation. Insert once more. I completed research of English, experienced a cosmic recording, and transcribed 30 recently encountered vocabulary terms in my journal. Insert once more. I completed research of English, experienced a cosmic recording, transcribed 30 vocabulary terms, and exercised articulating them orally till they felt comfortable. This constitutes how you transform an elementary pursuit into fluent English exercise. Currently, let's exercise your evening behaviors. An elementary statement might be, I consumed evening meal. Let's broaden. I consumed evening meal alongside my relatives. Insert additional. I consumed evening meal alongside my relatives, and we consumed roasted beef with prepared vegetation. Insert once more. I consumed evening meal alongside my relatives. We consumed roasted beef with prepared vegetation, and we discussed our period. Insert additional. I consumed evening meal alongside my relatives. We consumed roasted beef with vegetation, discussed our period, and experienced laughter simultaneously at the amusing incidents my brother Thomas communicated regarding his endeavours. This constitutes not merely practicing characterization, but additionally practicing narrative composition. Here's one more activity for you. Every dusk, utilize your mobile device, initiate recording, and articulate in English for 3 moments characterizing your period. Neglect regarding mistakes. Simply articulate. Subsequently, you can replicate and observe additional vocabulary you might incorporate. This category of personal exercise constitutes among the quickest techniques to construct fluency because you characterize genuine existence utilizing your expression. Currently, let's explore characterizing things in greater complexity. When you characterize a thing, commence with the elementary composition and coloring. Subsequently, incorporate information regarding magnitude, consistency, and purpose. As an instance, let's characterize a composition volume. My volume is leather-bound. This is elementary. Insert additional. My volume is a deep blue coloration with a marginally weathered consistency. Insert once more. My volume is a deep blue coloration, possesses a weathered consistency, and the contents inside are substantial and pale in tone. Insert once more. My volume is deep blue. The contents are pale in tone, and it produces a subtle aroma of material and ink. Include a utility. My volume is deep blue with pale contents. It produces an aroma of material and ink, and I utilize it to transcribe impressions and imaginative sketches. This technique of characterization generates a thorough representation. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. The lantern is constructed from bronze. Insert additional. The lantern possesses a lengthened, narrow foundation with an antique surface. Insert once more. The lantern possesses a lengthened bronze foundation and the covering is a pale material. Insert once more. The lantern possesses a lengthened bronze foundation, a pale substance covering, and it generates a pleasant, delicate illumination. Insert additional. The lantern possesses a lengthened bronze foundation, a pale covering, generates a pleasant illumination, and I utilize it for perusing at nightfall. This stepwise growth is precisely what generates your English sounding fluent. Here's a practice obstacle. Choose 5 things in your residence currently. For everyone, articulate a minimum of 5 expressions to characterize it. This might be your carrying bag, your shoes, your liquid vessel, your favored pen, or your botanical specimen. Start straightforward, subsequently incorporate progressively elaborate sensory components. The increasingly you exercise this, the quicker your fluency improves. Ultimately, let's examine characterizing recollections. Recollections are impactful because they correlate former occurrences to the current instant. As an instance, you might express, I recollect my commencement. This is straightforward. Insert additional. I recollect traversing the platform to obtain my credential. Insert once more. I recollect traversing the platform for my credential and observing my household rejoicing in the gathering. Insert more. I recollect traversing the platform, observing my household rejoicing, and I experienced an intense impression of accomplishment and appreciation. Recollections brim with feeling, and characterizing them in English will facilitate you sounding progressively authentic and communicative. Here's a concise exercise collectively. Repeat gradually. I recollect the period we obtained our canine companion. Insert additional. I recollect the period we transported our canine companion, Leo domestic. Insert once more. I recollect the period we transported our canine Leo domestic, and he was a minimal sphere of auburn fibre. Insert once more. I recollect Leo was a minimal sphere of auburn fibre, and I recollect his cheerful utterances and the perception of his moist nasal. Insert additional. I recollect the period we transported our canine Leo domestic, his cheerful utterances. The perception of his moist nasal and that recollection consistently completes me with an impression of genuine, uncomplicated satisfaction. This is precisely how characterization enlivens recollections in English. As you progress in your capability to characterize, one mighty mechanism you might incorporate is relationship. Evaluating one thing to another. This facilitates you sounding authentic, vivid, and perhaps even artistic when you articulate. As an illustration, if you desire to characterize someone's vocal expression, you might express, "Her vocal expression is pleasant." This is valid, yet elementary. If you evaluate, you might express, "Her vocal expression was resembling instrumental sound," or "Her vocal expression resembled trickling fountains." Unexpectedly, your characterization transforms progressively fascinating and communicative. Let's exercise collectively. Repeat after me. The historical municipality was confusing. Currently evaluate. The historical municipality was a puzzle of compact pathways. Insert once more. The historical municipality was a puzzle of compact pathways, and the medieval infrastructure remained like quiet storytellers on every flank. Can you sense how this generates a superior visualization in your consciousness? That constitutes the capability of relationship. Currently, let's exercise characterizing feelings with evaluations. Rather than articulating "I experienced satisfaction," attempt "My affection experienced weightless, like a floating object." Rather than articulating "I experienced tiredness," attempt "I experienced as substantial as a maritime anchor at the conclusion of the period." These evaluations not merely make your English more potent, they additionally assist observers attached with you emotionally. Here's a concise activity for you. Choose individual sensation you encountered currently. Transcribe it in English. Subsequently imagine something you might evaluate it to. As an illustration, "I experienced anxious like a tautened cord." Or, "I experienced peaceful like a feather descending in calm breeze." Exercising this will create your characterizations progressively vivid and fluent. One more sophisticated method includes employing extended evaluations. A metaphor constitutes when you characterize anything as if it comprises a different thing. As an illustration, rather of articulating "he possesses substantial knowledge," you might express "his consciousness is machinery with gears." Or rather of articulating "she produces numerous impressions," you might express "she constitutes a fountain of ingenuity." These expressions create your English sounding vivid and authentic. Let's attempt a few collectively. Repeat after me. Her communication is silk. My consciousness comprised a tempestuous collection of impressions. The urban centre constitutes a metropolitan jungle. Extended evaluations such as these are regularly utilised by indigenous speakers, and comprehending them might create your characterizations progressively sophisticated. Currently, let's revisit characterizing geographic locations, yet with improved range. Imagine you desire to articulate regarding a botanical area. A straightforward beginner's characterization might be: the botanical area is substantial and verdant. Yet let's broaden. The botanical area is vast, verdant, and completely occupied with tall historical flora. Insert senses. The botanical area is vast and verdant, completely occupied with historical flora, and I might perceive the sensation of a remote percussion bird and the shuffle of material underneath my appendages. Insert sensation. The botanical area is vast and verdant. I might perceive percussion bird and shuffling material, and I consistently experience an impression of amazement when I traverse this location. Presently, the characterization lives. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. The bistro is comfortable. Insert additional. The bistro is comfortable and produces aromas of beverage and aromatic spice. Insert once more. The bistro is comfortable, produces aromas of beverage and aromatic spice, and delicate imaginative sound is consistently playing. Insert once more. The bistro is comfortable, produces aromas of beverage and aromatic spice, delicate imaginative sound is playing, and the seating is incredibly pleasant. Insert additional. The bistro is comfortable, produces aromas of beverage and aromatic spice. Delicate imaginative sound plays. The seating is pleasant, and the luminous brightness generates you desire to persist for periods. This is precisely how you might exercise, characterizing geographic locations thoroughly. Here's a straightforward everyday activity. Every instant you traverse externally, participate in a small stroll, and characterize what you perceive, experience, and detect in English. As an illustration, the avenue is moist from moisture. The motor vehicles create a hissing sensation, and the environment produces an impression of hygiene and renewal. Through this, you convey English into your ordinary existence. Currently, let's exercise characterizing individuals in a sophisticated manner. Rather of merely articulating she is youthful, you might characterize clothing, appearance, impression, and temperament. As an illustration, my associate Rebecca constitutes an accomplished musician. She maintains abbreviated, curved ebony appearance and regularly exhibits vibrant head coverings. Her consciousness is brilliant and exploratory, and she expresses with fervour and strength. She comprises notably, innovative, and continuously encourages me. This category of characterization generates a thorough representation of a being. Let's exercise sequentially. Repeat after me. He comprises a senior person. Insert additional. He comprises a senior person with kind consciousness. Insert once more. He comprises a senior person with kind consciousness and an extended white beard. Insert once more. He comprises a senior person with kind consciousness, an extended white beard, and he consistently exhibits a plaid covering. Insert additional. He comprises a senior person with kind consciousness. An extended white beard, exhibits a plaid covering, and expresses in a deliberate, contemplative resonance. Every period you incorporate additional information, the individual turns into increasingly genuine in your characterization. Here's an obstacle for you. Choose individual you understand satisfactorily, perhaps a household participant or companion. Invest a moment articulating them orally in English. Commence with appearance, subsequently attire, subsequently communication, subsequently temperament, and ultimately the sensation they generate in you. This facilitates you exercising connecting several components collectively in an organic progression. One more technique to enhance characterization relates to emphasizing sentiments and appearance. As an illustration, rather of articulating he experienced anxious, you might characterize his movements. He persisted in flexing his appendages on the furniture. His consciousness navigated approximately the chamber, and his communication possessed a marginally trembling character. Rather of articulating she experienced satisfaction, you might characterize her impression. A substantial grin dispersed throughout her impression. Her consciousness illuminated, and she experienced with genuine pleasure. These components create your English sounding alive and commanding. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. He experienced dismay. Insert additional. He experienced dismay, and his perception remained concentrated on the terrain. Insert once more. He experienced dismay. His perception remained concentrated on the terrain, and his shoulders descended. Insert once more. He experienced dismay. His perception was concentrated on the terrain. His shoulders descended, and he articulated in a peaceful, unstable vocal. This constitutes how characterization generates psychological profundity to your English. Ultimately, let's exercise characterizing occurrences in expanded complexity. Imagine somebody inquires what transpired at the gathering. A concise reply constitutes it was pleasurable. Yet, let's broaden. The gathering was pleasurable, and there existed instrumental entertainment. Insert additional. The gathering was pleasurable. There existed instrumental entertainment, and the environment comprised the fragrance of delectable avenue refreshment. At once more, the gathering was pleasurable, with instrumental entertainment and wonderful refreshment fragrances, and the assembly was executing beneath illuminated textile formations. Insert once more. The gathering was pleasurable with instrumental entertainment and wonderful nourishment. Individuals were executing beneath illuminated textiles, and I continued alongside my companions till following mid-darkness, experiencing completely energized. This category of characterization enlivens a circumstance for your observer. Here's a practice possibility for you. Once every rotation, choose individual circumstance you participated in. Perhaps a consumption gathering, a perambulation, a presentation or a communication, and characterize it in substantial information in English. Incorporate the individuals, the position, the movements, the acoustic sensations, the fragrances, and your impressions. This activity facilitates you comprehending to narrate accounts in English with assurance. Narration constitutes among the mightiest techniques to exercise characterization because it synthesizes every component you've comprehended. Individuals, geographic locations, movements, impressions, and information. When you narrate a account, you are not merely characterizing yet, additionally organizing your impressions, producing movement, and producing attention for your observer. This generates your English sounding authentic and fluent, regardless of whether your vocabulary remains elementary. Let's commence with an elementary account and then construct it collectively. Previously, I traversed to a writing establishment. This constitutes the starting point. Currently, let's incorporate additional information progressively. Previously, I meandered into a diminutive writing establishment in the urban centre. Insert once more. Previously, I meandered into a diminutive writing establishment in the urban centre to locate a contemporary publication. Insert once more. Previously, I traversed to a diminutive writing establishment in the urban centre, and it was peaceful and produced aromas of material and beverage. Insert more. Previously, I traversed to a diminutive writing establishment in the urban centre. It was peaceful and produced aromas of material and beverage. And the proprietor, a senior individual, designated Mr. Williams, suggested an exhilarating secret account. Presently, you perceive how a concise phrase transforms into a thorough account. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. This daybreak I participated in operation. Insert additional. This daybreak I participated in operation via the botanical pathway. Insert once more. This daybreak I participated in operation via the botanical pathway, and the environment was hazy and refreshing. Insert once more. This daybreak I participated in operation via the botanical pathway. The environment was hazy and refreshing, and I noticed a hoofed beast remaining motionless amid the flora. Insert additional. This daybreak I participated in operation via the botanical pathway. The environment was hazy and refreshing. I noticed a hoofed beast amid the flora, and I experienced a comprehensive impression of serenity as I experienced the botanical location awakening. This constitutes narrative via characterization. Here's an activity for you. Every rotation, choose individual diminutive account from your existence and articulate it in English. It doesn't necessitate to comprise drama or magnitude. It might be as straightforward as I prepared refreshment, or I communicated with a companion. Commence diminutive, subsequently incorporate position, instant, individuals, impressions, and movements. Should you exercise this regularly, you'll immediately observe that you might articulate for extended intervals minus pausing or mentally translating. And further significant aptitude comprises connecting your expressions with connective vocabulary. Rather of ceasing post every expression, you might unite them to generate your English circulate progressively, effortlessly. As an illustration, rather of articulating I traversed to the bistro. I consumed beverage. I perused a composition. You might articulate I traversed to the bistro whereby I consumed beverage and perused a composition while resting via the illumination. Connective vocabulary, including and, yet therefore meanwhile, when, next, and prior will facilitate you uniting your impressions. Let's exercise with a few connective vocabulary presently. Repeat after me. The composition was extensive, yet I appreciated every division. I continued domestic since the meteorological circumstance was severe. I experienced a podcast meanwhile. I performed residence responsibilities. I experienced relieved when my endeavour was ultimately completed. Notice how every expression comprises a progressively fluid motion with these vocabulary. Here's a diminutive activity for you. Execute a concise characterization and include a connective vocabulary. As an illustration, commence with, I had a presentation. Insert, I experienced a presentation and transcribed observations. Insert once more. I experienced a presentation and transcribed observations, meanwhile my household member remained in my accommodation. Insert once more. I experienced a presentation and transcribed observations. Meanwhile, my household member remained in my accommodation. And subsequently, I communicated with my companion Tyler to examine it. Connective produces your expressions progressively comprehensive, plentiful, and fluent. Presently, let's attempt narrative with feelings incorporated. Imagine you desire to narrate an account regarding encountering a companion. A concise form is I encountered my companion. Broaden it. I encountered my companion Isabella at a botanical garden. Insert impressions. I encountered my companion Isabella at a botanical garden and I experienced immense satisfaction since we hadn't perceived one another in extended periods. Insert information. I encountered my companion Isabella at the botanical garden. I experienced immense satisfaction and we embraced and experienced laughter as we communicated our accounts. Insert atmosphere. I encountered my companion Isabella at the botanical garden. I experienced immense satisfaction, since we hadn't perceived one another in extended periods. We experienced laughter as we communicated our accounts, and the impression of youngsters participating in the vicinity completed the moment progressively particular. Can you perceive the sensation of impressions and atmosphere supplying existence to the account? Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. I traversed to my ancestors. Insert additional. I traversed to my ancestors and they manufactured my favoured juvenile meal. Insert once more. I traversed to my ancestors. They manufactured my favoured meal, and I experienced comfortable and nostalgic at their existence. Insert once more. I traversed to my ancestors. They manufactured my favoured meal. I experienced comfortable and nostalgic. And we articulated for periods meanwhile, examining aged illustrations. This category of characterization generates your English progressively private and commanding. One more advantageous technique constitutes experiencing accounts. Experience a concise account in English. Replicate it sequentially and subsequently attempt retelling the account, utilizing your individual terminology. This activity facilitates you exercising your consciousness, your articulating movement, and your capability to characterize. As an illustration, experience she traversed to acquisitions and obtained a burgundy covering. Replicate it. Subsequently, attempt retelling utilizing your terminology. Earlier, she traversed to a diminutive bazaar and discovered a magnificent artificial covering the coloration of the heavens. Progressively modifying diminutive components facilitates your fluency expand. Currently, let's attempt a assisted account collectively. Imagine it comprises dusk and you are traversing domestic. Repeat gradually after me. I traverse domestic in the dusk. Insert additional. I traverse domestic in the dusk and the avenue illuminations commence to emit. Insert once more. I traverse domestic in the dusk. The avenue illuminations commence to emit, and the environment produced the impression of moisture post a scorching period. Insert once more. I traverse domestic in the dusk. The avenue illuminations commence to emit, and the environment produced the impression of moisture. And I transmitted by a bakery, whereby the aroma of heated substance generated me crave food. Insert additional. I traversed domestic in the dusk. The avenue illuminations generated light. The environment produced the impression of moisture. I transmitted by a bakery that produced aroma of heated substance. And I experienced satisfied as I finally attained my entry. This displays precisely how modest components construct a thorough account with atmosphere, sensations, and impressions. Here's an obstacle for you. Prior to resting, invest a moment articulating the account of your comprehensive period in English. Commence from the instant you emerged till the instant you rest. Abstain from terminating. Abstain from converting. Merely characterize in English, regardless of whether your expressions comprise elementary. The action of articulating perpetually will exercise your consciousness to think immediately in English. Keep in consciousness, narration comprises not merely for substantial circumstances like perambulations or festivities. Merely the smallest everyday movements might transform into an account when you incorporate characterization. This activity facilitates you for authentic interactions, since in regular existence, individuals frequently query, "What activities did you accomplish?" Or, "How did your sabbatical proceed?" Should you articulate with a concise account complete with information, you will communicate fluent and assured. Fluency in English encompasses not merely characterizing the previous and the contemporary, yet additionally characterizing the approaching, when you might discuss your aims, your aspirations, and your imagination. You grant yourself the independence to articulate additional than merely what currently occurred. You commence discussing your aspirations and impressions. And this comprises a substantial movement in the direction of interacting authentic and assured. Let's commence elementary. A concise approaching expression might be, "I will commence my endeavor this upcoming period." This is valid, yet elementary. Let's develop it. I will commence my imaginative undertaking this upcoming period by organizing my materials by the illuminated location. Insert additional. This upcoming period, I'll commence my imaginative undertaking. Organize my materials by the illumination for the superior illumination. And I intend to employ striking dynamic shades. Insert additional. This upcoming period, I'll commence my imaginative undertaking Organize my materials by the illumination. Utilize dynamic shades, and subsequently, I will encounter my companion Marcus for consumption to commemorate. Observe how characterizing your objective with information generates a transparent representation of the approaching. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. I will traverse subsequently rotation. Insert additional. I will traverse to the hillside locations subsequent rotation. Insert once more. I will traverse to the hillside locations subsequent rotation and continue in a comfortable retreat. Insert additional. I will traverse to the hillside locations, continue in a comfortable retreat, and participate in extended perambulations every occasion. Insert once more. I will traverse to the hillside location subsequent rotation. Continue in a comfortable retreat. Participate in extended perambulations and capture magnificent illustrations of the surroundings. This constitutes the technique to characterize approaching objectives in fluent English. Here's an activity for you. Every daybreak, invest a couple moments expressing orally in English what you intend to execute that period. As an illustration, currently I will finalize my composition for my workplace. Subsequently, I will participate in motion activities. I will manufacture a nutritious vegetable mixture for consumption. And I will transmit to my ancestors prior to resting. Immaterial, whether it comprises elementary. The practice of characterizing the approaching facilitates your consciousness contemplate forward in English absent conversion. Currently, let's attempt picturing the approaching. Imagination demonstrates mighty since it supplies unrestricted independence to characterize. As an illustration, one period I desire to initiate a diminutive confectionery establishment. Insert additional. One period I desire to initiate a diminutive confectionery establishment, and I'd emerge prior to dawn to the aroma of new mixture. Insert once more. One period I desire to initiate a diminutive confectionery establishment, emerge to the aroma of new mixture, and distribute heated croissants and artisanal substance to my pleasant inhabitants. This variety of characterization synthesizes English exercise with your private aspirations, which generates it progressively emotional and unforgettable. Exercise alongside me. Repeat gradually. Throughout the approaching, I will comprehend to perform acoustic instrument. Insert additional. Throughout the approaching, I will comprehend to perform acoustic instrument and exercise in my chamber. Insert once more. Throughout the approaching, I will comprehend to perform acoustic instrument, exercise in my chamber, and I will comprehend to perform every one of my preferred compositions. Insert once more. Throughout the approaching, I will comprehend to perform acoustic instrument, exercise my preferred compositions, and expend evenings performing music for my companions, approximately a ignited seating location. When you characterize your approaching this manner, you manufacture not merely expressions, yet additionally enthusiasm for your English expedition. Here's a practice obstacle for you. Once every rotation, choose individual aspiration or objective you maintain. Subsequently, invest a moment articulating it in English with substantial information. Articulate regarding position, moment, who will continue with you, the sensation you will experience, and what will materialize sequentially. Regardless of whether your grammar isn't immaculate, the action of characterizing your aspiration will enhance your fluency and supply you assurance. One more crucial technique to exercise characterization comprises utilizing imagination pastimes. As an illustration, picture a straightforward thing like an entry mechanism and make believe you are characterizing it to somebody that cannot perceive it. Express It comprises a diminutive metallic entry mechanism. It comprises generated from frigid, substantial composition. The elevation comprises circular, and the protrusions comprise jagged and intricate. O. It comprises velvety and frigid when you maintain it. This variety of imagination exercise comprises quite beneficial when you participate unaccompanied, since you might exercise perpetually any place. Presently, let's exercise characterizing an imagined circumstance collectively. Picture you comprise on a locomotive. Repeat after me. I comprise remaining on a locomotive. Insert additional. I comprise remaining on a locomotive by the portal, observing the universal transferring. Insert once more. I comprise remaining on a locomotive by the portal, and I detect rolling verdant protrusions, decorated with diminutive farm residences. Insert additional. I comprise remaining on a locomotive observing rolling verdant protrusions transferring, and I perceive the consistent click of the implements on the segments. Insert once more. I comprise remaining in a locomotive, observing rolling protrusions. I perceive the click of the implements, and I experience the impression of excitement since I comprise transferring to a contemporary municipality. This variety of activity constructs both your fluency and your imagination in English. And further technique to exercise characterizing the approaching and imagination comprises utilizing conditional expressions. As an illustration, what should I possibly travel? You might articulate, should I possibly travel, I might traverse via the protrusions. Broaden it. Should I possibly travel, I might traverse via the protrusions and perceive the universal from superior. Insert additional. Should I possibly travel, I might traverse via the protrusions, perceive the universal from superior, compete with the organisms, and traverse to any nation I desired. Exercising with conditional helps you ready for imaginative interactions in English. Let's attempt a limited collectively. Repeat after me. Should I comprehend a contemporary expertise, I will experience progressively assured. Should the solar exists shining subsequently, I will participate in open consumption in the botanical area. Should I encounter an indigenous communicator, I will attempt to participate in a concise communication with them. These conditional expressions comprise not merely virtuous grammar exercise, yet, simultaneously, a technique to characterize feasible approaching in English. Ultimately, recall that when you characterize the approaching, it comprises satisfactory to unite elementary expressions with sophisticated ones. Regardless of whether you merely articulate. Subsequently, I will examine a composition. It comprises a virtuous starting point. The essential comprises to persist incorporating additional information gradually. Throughout extended, you'll detect that you might articulate regarding your approaching objectives and your aspirations progressively fluidly, with reduced uncertainty. One more significant expertise in fluency involves comprehending how to characterize your impressions and notions. Numerous learners might characterize items or movements, yet they terminate when questioned, "What do you imagine?" Participating in your impressions in English comprises a genuine indication of fluency, and the virtuous communication comprises you might exercise this expertise every period with straightforward movements. Let's commence with a concise impression. I appreciate breezy periods. This comprises satisfactory, yet elementary. Let's build it. I appreciate breezy periods since the impression of moisture comprises so peaceful. Insert additional. I appreciate breezy periods since the impression comprises peaceful, and it's the excellent justification to nestle with a virtuous composition and a comfortable wrapping. Insert once more. I appreciate breezy periods since the impression comprises peaceful. It's the excellent justification to continue domestic with a composition. And I adore the refreshing, unblemished impression in the atmosphere post the tempest transmits. Observe how this concise impression expands into a thorough characterization of your impressions and motives. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. I appreciate outdoor exercise. Insert additional. I appreciate outdoor exercise since it synthesizes me with surrounding. Insert once more. I appreciate outdoor exercise since it synthesizes me with surrounding and tests me corporeally. Insert once more. I appreciate outdoor exercise since it synthesizes me with surrounding, tests me corporeally, and grants me a magnificent impression of tranquility and accomplishment when I attain the pinnacle. This variety of characterization facilitates you transmit not merely what you imagine, yet additionally the reason you imagine it. Here's an activity for you. Choose individual matter you appreciate and individual matter you abstain from. For everyone, participate for a moment in English describing the reason. As an illustration, I appreciate experiencing acoustic sound, since it facilitates me concentration when I execute. The melodies comprise stunning. They comprise no diverting terminology, and it generates me experience progressively imaginative. Or I abstain from packed acquisition locations, since they comprise cacophonous, overwhelming, and it comprises challenging to locate what you're investigating for. Executing this every period will enhance your capability to articulate your impressions in English. Presently, let's exercise characterizing impressions about regular subjects. As an illustration, somebody queries, "Do you appreciate comprehending English?" A concise reply might be, "Indeed I do, yet let's generate it progressively extensive." Indeed, I appreciate comprehending English since it inaugurates a contemporary universe of compositions and presentations. Insert additional. Indeed, I appreciate comprehending English since it inaugurates a contemporary universe of heritage. It facilitates me affiliate with individuals from different regions, and it generates me experience progressively assured when I traverse. This transforms a concise reply into a fluent individual. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. I imagine manufacturing constitutes a beneficial expertise. Insert additional. I imagine manufacturing constitutes a beneficial expertise, since it facilitates you consume progressively nourishing. Insert once more. I imagine manufacturing constitutes a beneficial expertise, since you might consume progressively nourishing, preserve finance, and comprise progressively imaginative. Insert once more. I imagine manufacturing constitutes a beneficial expertise, since you might consume progressively nourishing, preserve finance, comprise imaginative, and it's a magnificent technique to demonstrate affection for your relatives and companions. Through exercising this, you will be prepared to transmit your impressions organically. Here's a straightforward activity for everyday exercise. Every rotation, choose individual diminutive subject, including instrumental sound, presentation, competition, science, or transfer. Subsequently, invest a couple moments discussing your impression in English. As an illustration, I imagine science comprises extraordinary, since it facilitates us comprehend anything we desire, internet, synthesizes us with companions throughout the universe, and simplifies our everyday existences. Yet, periodically, I imagine it comprises significant to participate in a pause from our projection gadgets. Regardless of whether your expressions comprise not immaculate, this exercise will generate you fluent at articulating your impressions. Presently, let's transfer to characterizing theoretical impressions. Theoretical impressions comprise matters we cannot perceive or maintain, including intrepidity, adoration, independence, or satisfaction. Characterizing these impressions comprises progressively sophisticated, yet it generates your English commanding. As an illustration, you might articulate, intrepidity comprises significant. This comprises concise. Let's broaden. To me, intrepidity isn't regarding comprising fearless. Insert additional. To me, intrepidity comprises regarding experiencing that apprehension, yet selecting to execute the virtuous movement regardless. Insert once more. Intrepidity comprises experiencing that apprehension, yet executing the virtuous movement regardless. And it's the peaceful vocal that communicates you to attempt once more post you disappointed. This constitutes how you manufacture a fluent characterization of an impression. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. Satisfaction comprises a straightforward impression. Insert additional. Satisfaction comprises discovered in the straightforward moments of existence. Insert once more. Satisfaction comprises discovered in the straightforward moments, including discussing consumption with somebody you adore or observing a magnificent solar decline. Insert additional. Satisfaction comprises discovered in straightforward moments, including discussing consumption or observing a solar decline. And it's the comfortable impression of appreciation that saturates your affection. Characterizing impressions. This manner improves both your terminology and your fluency. Here's a practice obstacle for you. Once every rotation, choose individual substantial impression, including prosperity, affection, imagination, or comprehension. Subsequently, participate for a couple moments in English regarding what it communicates to you. As an illustration, prosperity comprises accomplishing a private objective. It communicates continuing committed, comprehending from your unsuccessful attempts, and experiencing a comprehensive impression of achievement in your exertion. Prosperity might comprise substantial, including initiating your private marketplace, or diminutive, including ultimately finishing a challenging composition. This variety of exercise generates your English progressively contemplative and communicative. One more technique to exercise characterizing impressions comprises via complying and contradicting respectfully. As an illustration, should somebody articulate, "I imagine municipalities comprise the greatest residencies," you might comply by articulating, "Indeed, I comply municipalities comprise magnificent, since there comprises perpetually so considerable vitality." And something contemporary to execute, or you might contradict respectfully. That comprises a fascinating concept, yet I imagine I prefer the countryside, since it comprises so peaceful and approximated to surrounding. Exercising, complying, and contradicting facilitates you communicate assured in interactions. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually, "I comply." That comprises a magnificent concept. I respectfully contradict since I maintain a substitute perspective. I comprehend your perspective. Yet, I additionally imagine we might regard this. These expressions will facilitate you transmit your impressions while maintaining courtesy. Ultimately, recall that articulating impressions comprises regarding communicating plainly, not complexly. You don't require considerable vocabulary to characterize what you imagine. Commence straightforward, incorporate motives, incorporate instances, and you will communicate fluent and authentic. Throughout extended, your terminology will develop, and your capability to describe impressions will transform progressively commanding. Presently, let's exercise characterizing progressively substantial occurrences including perambulations, festivities, or particular occurrences. As an illustration, previous rotation I transferred to a contemporary location. This comprises concise. Let's broaden. Previous rotation, I transferred to a location to perceive the blossom periods. Insert additional. Previous rotation, I transferred to a location to perceive the blossom periods, and the journey comprised extensive yet brimming with awaiting. Insert once more. Previous rotation, I transferred to a location. The journey comprised extensive yet fascinating. And when I arrived, the elegance of the pink blossoms comprised completely magnificent. Insert additional. Previous rotation, I transferred to a location to perceive the blossom periods. The journey comprised extensive. Yet when I arrived, the perception of the blossoms comprised magnificent. And I invested my periods traversing via botanical areas, consuming delectable cuisine, and saturating in the heritage. Do you perceive how this generates the observer picture your circumstance? Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. A couple rotations previously, I participated in a marriage. Insert additional. A couple rotations previously, I participated in my associate's marriage in the countryside. Insert once more. A couple rotations previously, I participated in my associate's marriage in the countryside, and the ceremony comprised conducted in a gorgeous aged construction. Insert additional. A couple rotations previously, I participated in my associate's marriage in a gorgeous construction, and there comprised illumination formations everywhere. Insert once more. A couple rotations previously, I participated in my associate's marriage in a gorgeous construction, decorated with illumination formations, and we performed entire evening beneath the celebrities to instrumental execution. This constitutes how recollections transform into fluent accounts. One more beneficial exercise comprises characterizing juvenile recollections. These regularly maintain powerful impressions and information. As an illustration, when I comprised youthful, I utilized to traverse to my ancestor's orchard. Broaden it. When I comprised youthful, I utilized to traverse to my ancestor's orchard every temperate rotation. Insert additional. When I comprised youthful, I traversed to my ancestor's orchard every temperate rotation, and I'd appreciate to facilitate with producing substances from the poultry. Insert once more. When I comprised youthful, I traversed to my ancestor's orchard. I appreciated producing the comfortable novel substances, and my forebear might train me precisely how to manufacture substance. Insert additional. When I comprised youthful, I traversed to my ancestor's orchard, produce novel substances, comprehend to manufacture substance, and those straightforward moments comprise several of my most treasured recollections. Juvenile recollections comprise flawless exercise for descriptive fluency. Here's one more obstacle for you. Once every rotation, choose individual recollection from your previous and document yourself, articulating regarding it in English. Abstain from terminating for a couple-to-couple moments. Regardless of whether you manufacture mistakes, persist executing. Subsequently, experience the documentation and attempt to incorporate additional information subsequently. This will exercise you to participate perpetually, which comprises the essential to fluency. Ultimately, recall that characterizing preceding occurrences comprises not regarding flawlessness yet regarding association. The observer desires to picture your account, not examine your grammar. Should you might paint a representation with your terminology, whereby you comprised what you noticed, the sensation you experienced, subsequently you comprise currently participating fluently. Among the greatest techniques to ready for authentic interactions comprises exercising disguise situations. Disguise comprises picturing you comprise in an ordinary circumstance and characterizing what you might articulate or execute in English. This comprises a commanding technique since it synthesizes characterization, response, and authentic participating exercise. Let's commence with a straightforward disguise at a marketplace. Picture you traverse into a coffee house and desire to buy. A concise expression might be, I desire consumption. This comprises valid, yet too elementary. Let's broaden. I might desire a substantial latte, please. Insert additional. I might desire a substantial latte, please, with vegetation-derived milk. Insert once more. I might desire a substantial latte with vegetation-derived milk, please. And might I additionally acquire one of those almond croissants? Notice how the characterization of your inquiry develops sequentially. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. I might desire a portion of herbal beverage. Insert additional. I might desire a receptacle of verdant herbal beverage, please. Insert once more. I might desire a receptacle of verdant herbal beverage, please, with a division of yellowish berry. Insert additional. I might desire a receptacle of verdant herbal beverage, please. With a division of yellowish berry, since I'm experiencing a diminutive beneath the weather presently. Incorporating information generates you communicate progressively authentic and respectful. Presently, let's picture you comprise acquiring garments. You might articulate, I desire a shirt. Yet, let's broaden. I'm investigating for a woolly shirt, please. Insert additional. I'm investigating for a woolly shirt, please, in a shade of forest. Insert once more. I'm investigating for a shade of forest woolly shirt, please, in a moderate magnitude. Insert additional. I comprise investigating for a shade of forest woolly shirt, please, in a moderate magnitude. And I might incline towards something quite velvety and non-irritating. This variety of exercise grants you the capability to characterize specifically what you necessitate in everyday circumstances. Here's an activity for you. Every rotation, choose individual disguise circumstance, for instance, consuming at a marketplace, obtaining, visiting a medical expert, or requesting instructions. Exercise participating orally, as if you comprise in that circumstance. Incorporate as plentiful information as feasible. This readies you for authentic interactions when you necessitate English utmost. Presently, let's attempt to disguise at the medical consultation. A concise expression might be, my appendage harms. Broaden it. I maintain a keen impression in my departed appendage. Insert additional. I maintain a keen impression in my departed appendage, specifically when I try to transport matters. Insert once more. I maintain a keen impression in my departed appendage, specifically when I transport matters and it initiated post I tumbled previously. Insert additional. I maintain a keen impression in my departed appendage that initiated post I tumbled previously. It harms when I transport matters, and it's additionally a diminutive, distended and discoloured. Through exercising this, you are readying yourself to characterize manifestations plainly, which comprises quite beneficial in authentic circumstance. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. I maintain an irritated respiratory section. Insert additional. I maintain an irritated respiratory section and a flowing nasal. Insert once more. I maintain an irritated respiratory section and a flowing nasal, and it's been intensifying for a couple periods. Insert additional. I maintain an irritated respiratory section and flowing nasal that's been intensifying for a couple periods, and I experience quite exhausted and maintain no strength. This variety of exercise generates your interaction transparent and advantageous in essential circumstances. An additional beneficial disguise comprises requesting instructions. A straightforward expression might be, whereby comprises the museum. Yet let's broaden. Forgive me, might you educate me precisely how to traverse to the artistic museum? Insert additional. Forgive me, might you educate me precisely how to traverse to the artistic museum? I imagine I might be disoriented. Insert once more. Forgive me, I'm a diminutive disoriented. Might you educate me the greatest technique to traverse to the artistic museum from this location? This variety of respectful and comprehensive characterization facilitates you acquire superior replies and demonstrates fluency. Here's a practice obstacle for you. Remain in front of a reflective surface and perform a disguise. Make believe you comprise in a coffee house or in a marketplace or requesting a guest for facilitating. Articulate orally in English as if you comprise genuinely present. Characterize what you desire. Pose questions and articulate responses also. This comprises a pleasurable and productive technique to exercise fluency absent necessitating an affiliate. Presently, let's attempt disguise in a marketplace employment appointment. An ordinary inquiry comprises articulate regarding yourself. Numerous learners suspend present since they don't comprehend precisely how to characterize themselves. A concise reply might be, I comprise a visible artist. Yet let's broaden. I comprise a visible artist with a couple decades of expertise. Insert additional. I comprise a visible artist with a couple decades of expertise, and I concentrate in manufacturing unblemished and contemporary brand impressions. Insert once more. I comprise a visible artist with a couple decades of expertise emphasizing contemporary brand impressions. And I maintain enthusiasm regarding facilitating marketplace entities characterize their accounts via visualization. Insert additional. I comprise a keen visible artist with a couple decades of expertise manufacturing contemporary brand impressions. I appreciate facilitating marketplace entities characterize their accounts aesthetically. And I'm perpetually energized to comprehend contemporary visualization methods and methodologies. This variety of characterization comprises immaculate for appointments. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. I comprise an associate professional. Insert additional. I comprise an associate professional and I appreciate synthesizing with additional individuals. Insert once more. I comprise an associate professional. I appreciate synthesizing with additional individuals, and I imagine the greatest impressions emerge from operating collectively. Insert additional. I comprise an associate professional that appreciates synthesizing, since I imagine the greatest impressions emerge from operating collectively. And I consistently appreciate experiencing substitute perspectives. This variety of self-characterization manufactures assurance in marketplace circumstances. One more ordinary appointment inquiry comprises, what comprise your capabilities? A concise reply might be, I comprise systematic, yet let's broaden. I comprise quite systematic and I perpetually overlook a timing. Insert additional. I comprise quite systematic. I perpetually overlook a timing and I comprise experienced at handling various endeavors at once. Insert once more. I comprise quite systematic and comprehensive information. I perpetually overlook a timing. I comprise experienced at handling various endeavours, and I continue peaceful and concentrated underneath urgency. These comprehensive replies communicate progressively fluent and authentic. Ultimately, recall that disguise comprises not merely exercise, it comprises preparation. When you picture yourself in authentic existence circumstances and characterize plainly, you are manufacturing both your assurance and your fluency. Through exercising these circumstances regularly, you'll comprise readied for interactions at marketplaces, employment facilities, or any place you necessitate English. One more commanding exercise comprises contemplating in English. Numerous learners misplace fluency, since they transform from their indigenous communication to English. To terminate converting, commence diminutive. When you perceive anything, identify it in English promptly. As an illustration, should you perceive a creature, imagine creature. Should you perceive a construction, imagine construction. Subsequently broaden. Rather than merely creature, imagine that creature comprises a velvety auburn retriever. Rather than merely construction, imagine that construction comprises an elevated construction, fabricated of transparent substance. Exercising your consciousness to imagine in English immediately comprises among the quickest techniques to transform fluent. Here's an everyday activity. Every instant you traverse externally, choose a couple matters to characterize in English in your consciousness. As an illustration, that automated vehicle comprises decorated in magnificent azure. That individual comprises exhibiting a fashionable hat. That marketplace produces of processed caffeine. The environment comprises filled with dramatic shadowy developments. That omnibus comprises transferring quite gradually via activity. Execute this every rotation, and your consciousness will inherently commence to imagine in English absent exertion. One more exercise comprises the sensory impression pastime. Take any subject and characterize it utilizing appearance, acoustic, aroma, essence, and texture. As an illustration, a serving of herbal beverage. It perceives like melted precious stone in my glassware. It produces aroma of soil and wonderful. It communicates comfortable and marginally aromatic. It experiences comfortable against my appendages. It generates a peaceful metallic percussion when my container affects the glassware. Exercising with all sensations will develop your terminology and generate your characterizations progressively vibrant. Exercise alongside me presently. Repeat gradually. This yellowish berry comprises golden. Insert additional. This yellowish berry comprises brilliant golden and elliptical. Insert once more. This yellowish berry comprises brilliant golden, elliptical, and produces incredibly refreshing and citrus aroma. Insert once more. This yellowish berry comprises brilliant golden, produces citrus aroma, experiences waxy in my appendage, and communicates very acrid when I consume it. Do you perceive precisely how sensations generate the characterization alive? An additional sophisticated technique comprises narration underneath temporal urgency. Configure a device for a couple moments and narrate an account in English, absent terminating. As an illustration, narrate the account of precisely how you emerged presently. Articulate. My notification activated at 6:30.